The window didn't shatter so much as disintegrate, a million crystal teeth spraying into the neon-lit New York night as I hauled a would-be thief named Cragg through it. His scream was short, clipped by the sudden vacuum of altitude. We shot upward, the city blurring into a smear of light below us, and my mind was elsewhere. "Boss," I said, my voice flat inside the helmet. "Finalize the sell order. Every share of Stark Dynamics. I don't want a single asset left in my name by morning." The AI acknowledged with a soft chime. Cragg was babbling, begging, his words lost to the wind. I barely heard him. My focus was on the blinking trajectory line leading to the Orion 7 communications satellite. It was an elegant, brutal solution. 3 seconds later, we punctured its solar array in a silent explosion of glittering debris. I left Cragg tumbling, safely ensnared in a mangled antenna, and turned back to a world that felt smaller, duller. That night, in the cavernous, half-empty brownstone I now called home, the headline scrolled across my screen. Not about the stopped robbery. "Iron Man blacks out East Coast." The subtext was a chorus of outrage over dead internet and interrupted streaming services. I let out a breath that was supposed to be a laugh. It came out as a sigh that echoed in the empty room. I had sold it all. The towers, the companies, the legacy. I'd even dismantled the armors, all but one. In my garage sat a relic, the Mark III, rebuilt from memory. No AI uplink, no nano-assembly, just welded titanium and the primal hum of the arc reactor. It was a step back to a simpler time, or so I told myself. I was trying to find the man under the monument. The movement at my window wasn't a reflection. Lena Vance, the spectral hero known as Wraith, hovered there, her form shimmering slightly against the dark glass. A ghost visiting a ghost. I opened the pane. "Nice place," she said, her voice carrying a melancholy I knew all too well. "It's quiet," I replied. The silence between us was louder. "I came to say goodbye, Arno. Really goodbye, this time. I've moved on." I'd braced for it, but the finality still landed with a quiet thud. I nodded, my throat tight. "I understand. You should. You deserve peace, Lena, more than anyone." She searched my eyes, found only weary acceptance, and faded into the night, leaving me with a hollow victory and a garage that felt like a tomb. The roar of the Gran Torino's engine was a physical thing, a vibration in my chest that pushed back the silence. I'd bought the classic muscle car for cash, a tangible piece of a past I never had. It led me to the docks, to a stretch of condemned road that served as an illegal racetrack. The air smelled of spilled gasoline and reckless youth. I pulled up, the car's age drawing sneers from the drivers of their sleek, modified imports. "Where's the starting line?" I called out. A man with a scorpion tattoo coiling up his neck spat on the ground. "Get lost, suit. This ain't a charity race for retirees." I pulled out a roll of bills. "Just a man with too much money and a need for speed. 5,000 says this old girl can beat anything here." The crowd murmured. The scorpion man's eyes gleamed. He barked over his shoulder. "Get Cyrus. Tell him we have a pigeon to pluck." He emerged from the shadows, not with a swagger, but with a stillness that sucked the noise from the air. Cyrus. He was older than the others, his face a map of quiet roads. He looked at my car, then at me, and made a series of swift, graceful gestures with his hands. "He says," the scorpion man translated with a cruel grin, "that he hopes you like the taste of dust." The race was a humiliation. The Torino roared, a beast of pure horsepower, but Cyrus's modified car was a scalpel to my hammer. He drifted through turns with impossible, serene precision, his hands a blur on the wheel, his expression never changing. He won without ever seeming to try. As he collected his money, I approached. "How?" I asked. He turned, those gray eyes locking onto mine. He signed again, slowly. A kid from the crowd, less hostile now, muttered, "He says you're driving the car. He's listening to the road." Driving the car, not being one with it. I'd built empires on control, on forcing my will upon machines. Cyrus spoke to them. He heard a language I'd forgotten. I drove home, the thrill of speed gone, replaced by a cold, clarifying thought. I was trying to strip myself back to basics, but I was still Arno Stark, the man who commanded. Cyrus wasn't a commander, he was a listener. And in the deep, ringing silence after the race, I feared what I might hear if I ever truly learned how. The party in my brownstone was a beautiful lie. The city's elite floated through the rooms, their laughter a brittle soundtrack to my isolation. I moved through them like a ghost, a smile plastered on my face, deflecting requests for investments, for endorsements, for a piece of the legend. I was a monument, and they were tourists. Then I saw her, Kaylin Reese, once the fiery vixen, now a journalist with eyes that still saw too much. She leaned against a bookshelf I hadn't bothered to fill. "If they could touch the hem of Arno Stark's garment," she said, her smile not reaching her eyes, "I'm surprised you invited me. I'm not a donor." "You're a reminder," I said, and meant it. "Of what?" "Of when I was just a man in a metal suit, not an institution." Our conversation was cut short by Dr. Elias Vance, a kinetic energy researcher with a fervent glow in his eyes. "Mr. Stark, your funding, it's revolutionized my work. I've achieved sustainable lightning capture. We can power cities." I felt a flicker of the old curiosity. "Explain." But as he launched into a technical diatribe, Kaylin touched my arm. "You wanted to show me something?" she whispered. I led her down to the garage, to the Mark III, standing sentinel under a single work light. I slipped into the armor. The servos whined a familiar, comforting song. "Well?" Kaylin walked a circle around me, a genuine smile finally breaking through. "Vintage looks good on you." "Feel like ditching this party? I hear there's trouble at the Metropolitan Library." "What about your guests?" I activated a tiny, localized EMP device from my wrist. Every phone, watch, and tablet in the building above flickered and died. A chorus of dismay filtered down the stairs. Kaylin laughed. "Ah, now I understand the guest list." On the library roof, the night wind was cold. "I'm trying to remember who I am," I confessed, the cityscape sprawling before us. "Maybe you need to stop trying to be someone," Kaylin said softly. "This new humility, it feels like your ego in a different costume." Before I could retort, a searchlight speared the darkness. A helicopter, blades whipping, rose from the library roof. Clutched in the grip of a figure in iridescent, horned armor was a large, ancient-looking tome. The criminal called himself Manticore. I landed before him, repulsors glowing. "I don't think your library card covers that edition." "I serve only the unspoken," Manticore roared, lashing out with a beam of concussive energy from his forehead. I staggered. Kaylin, vixen once more in that moment, leapt, a blur of martial grace, but a backhanded blast sent her crashing into HVAC units. I grabbed him from behind, but he erupted in a shockwave of force, throwing me clear. He scrambled for the chopper. With a roar of thrusters, I shot forward, not at him, but at the rotor. The sound was catastrophic. The helicopter dropped like a stone into the closed street below. As Manticore crawled from the wreck, still clutching the book, I pried it from his fingers. The cover was worn leather. I opened it. My blood ran cold. It wasn't a Gutenberg Bible. It was a first edition Principia Mathematica by Newton, but every margin was filled with dense, shimmering script that wasn't any language on earth. "The unspoken will devour your light," Manticore gurgled before Vixen's boot silenced him. She looked from the book to me. "He's nuts, right?" I stared at the alien writing, glowing faintly under the moonlight. "I really hope so."
The book defied every analysis. Boss's linguistic subroutines short-circuited. The script was meta-mathematical, a code describing cosmic principles that made quantum physics look like child's play. And it kept whispering, not audibly, a pressure in the back of my skull, a silent hum that resonated with my arc reactor. A week later, I was in a hospital, not as a patient, but because Dr. Elias Vance's lightning capture facility had suffered a catastrophic containment failure. 6 of his top physicists were missing. The message left behind was for me. A world powered by Stark's arrogance is a world in darkness. They die for the truth. Cardiac. Cardiac, a vigilante who believed cutting out society's diseased heart was the only cure. I found him in the ruined facility, standing before a smooth black sphere that absorbed the light. Calling this supervillain cliché is an insult to clichés, I said, touching down. Is this because I funded big energy? You could have just sent a strongly worded email. He turned, his chest plate glowing with stolen bioenergy. They have to die, Stark. A message must be sent. Vixen dropped from the rafters, a kick sending him sprawling. I scanned the sphere. My HUD flared red. The scientists were inside, life signs fading. 4 minutes of air left. Repulsor beams slid off the sphere's surface like water. It's a phase-locked carbon lattice, Boss reported. Conventional force cannot breach it. Cardiac rose, coughing. You see, your technology, your solutions, they are the problem. I didn't answer. I was already flying backward, putting miles between me and the sphere. Boss, plot a maximum velocity impact trajectory. No evasive maneuvers. Arno, the impact will likely shatter every bone in your right side and cause massive systemic trauma. Just tell me when I'm far enough back. I turned, faced the tiny speck of the sphere in the distance, and unleashed the suit's full power. The world became a screaming tunnel of light and sound. I was the bullet. The impact was a universe-ending gong. The sphere shattered. I felt my arm break, my ribs crack. I hung in the air, the suit's right side mangled, gasping through waves of nausea and pain. Did we get them? I slurred. Vixen's voice was in my ear, tight with fear. Medics are with them. They're alive, you idiot. You absolute reckless idiot. In a hospital room later, she yelled at me. You're trying to die heroically because it's simpler than living. Admit it. The alarms cut her off. Manticore had broken custody. We found him in the sub-basement, his makeshift armor crackling with stolen electricity. I hear him, he screamed. In the wires, in the static, the unspoken calls me. Vixen moved to engage, but he was faster, stronger than before. A punch charged with arc lightning sent her crashing through a wall. He stood over her, his eyes wide with rapture. I am a conduit. I go to become his voice. He fled. We tracked his energy signature 42 miles outside a town called Mercy, Oklahoma. A storm raged over the plains. We saw him, a tiny figure running into a field, arms outstretched to the boiling heavens. It's me! I am here! I come to serve! A bolt of lightning, thicker than a sequoia, pure white and terrifying, lanced from the clouds and struck him directly. There was no explosion. He didn't burn. He absorbed it. He turned toward our hovering Quinjet, his body crackling with contained storm force, and he spoke, but the voice was not his own. It was layered, cosmic and cold. Tell the Iron Knight, I am coming for my book. Then Manticore collapsed, a smoking husk. The connection was severed. But the whisper in my mind, the one from the book, grew louder. It wasn't just code, it was a beacon, and I had just answered its call.
The city felt different after Oklahoma. Smaller. The sky wasn't just sky anymore. It felt like a lens, and something was focusing through it. I tried to be the hero. I stopped muggings, caught falling construction girders, even landed in a schoolyard to a chorus of delighted shrieks. But a teacher rushed out, her face not grateful, but afraid. Please, you can't be here. You're disrupting the day. You'll draw attention. She wasn't worried about me. She was worried about what follows me. I flew away, the taste of ash in my mouth. That night, I returned to my brownstone to find the melter standing in my garage, a smug grin on his face as my Gran Torino pooled into a molten metallic puddle on the floor. "I melted your car," he announced, as if I might have missed it. Rage, cold and absolute, washed over me. I didn't use a repulsor. I walked forward and drove my fist into his jaw. He dropped. I hauled his unconscious body into the sky, higher and higher, until the city was a jeweled carpet and the air was thin and biting. I held him over the abyss. One open hand, that's all it would take. Did they ever realize, the villains, that the only thing between them and oblivion was our choice, our fragile human choice to follow rules they spat upon? For a long, terrifying second, I didn't know what my choice would be. Then I let go. I watched him plummet, a shrinking dot against the grid of light. I counted. 1, 2. At 3, I dove, catching him 100 feet from the pavement, the G-forces making my vision gray. I deposited him on a police precinct roof and left before anyone could say a word. I was unraveling. I needed an anchor. I went to the only project that still made sense, Elias Vance's rebuilt facility, now the Vance Kinetic Energy Array. I arrived in the Mark III, the sleek armor a stark contrast to the rugged, storm-battered towers. Vance greeted me, but his smile was off, a performance. "Mr. Stark, welcome. I was worried you'd miss the fireworks. The suit lets me get a closer look at my investment without getting fried, Elias." I rose to inspect the main receptor. The storm clouds gathered with unnatural speed. I noticed the Stark logo on the receptor had been painted over. "Does my name embarrass you that much?" Static crackled over the comms. "As much as I appreciate your funding, our partnership ends here, Arno." The first bolt of lightning didn't come from the sky. It erupted from the receptor itself, a searing lance of energy that hit me square in the back. I crashed to the mud, system shrieking, the suit seizing. Vance walked over, flanked by Controller, Blizzard, and a now silent, hollow-eyed Manticore. "With the power I'll pull from this world, I'll become a demigod, a stepping stone. I plan to be a god, Arno. The unspoken will be made manifest." Vixen's Jeep came out of nowhere, plowing into the villains. "I hate monologues in the rain," she yelled, leaping out, helping me up. "I told you this was a bad investment," I gasped, firing at Controller. We fought, a desperate, muddy brawl, until Vance, no, not Vance, raised his hands. The storm descended into the clearing, not lightning, but a solid pillar of incandescent white energy. It consumed everything. I woke to the taste of mud and ozone. The suit's emergency systems had jump-started my heart. I crawled to where Kayleen lay, her costume scorched, her face pale. I pulled her to me. A low, resonant hum filled the air, emanating from the now glowing facility. The voice from Oklahoma, but now from everywhere. "The first page is turned." It was my fault. I'd funded the door, and now something was walking through it.
Kaylin wouldn't look at me. She sat in my living room staring at a crack in the plaster, her fingers pressed to her temples. The faint, luminous burns on her cheek from the lightning pulsed softly. Outside, reporters shouted questions about my disappeared head of security, Marcus Rhodes. "Kaylin," I said softly. She jumped, as if waking. "I'm fine." She wasn't. Her eyes were distant, listening to a station I couldn't tune into. "He's still out there, the unspoken. He'll come for the book." "Of course he will," she murmured, "after he realized he didn't kill us." I told her about Rhodes's kidnapping. The message was clear. No Avengers, no Fantastic Four, no calling in the cavalry. Or Rhodes dies. "You think you have to do this alone," she stated. "It's too dangerous to bring in the big guns. I can't risk him." She finally looked at me, her eyes blazing with pain and accusation. Or is it that you're afraid they'll blame you, the great Arno Stark, who bankrolled a would-be god?" The fight left her as quickly as it came. She sagged. "I'm sorry. The burns, they hurt. And the voice, it's getting louder, Arno." She confessed then. The unspoken's voice wasn't just in the air for her, it was in her mind. A soft, persistent whisper since Oklahoma, now growing into a steady drone. She was connected. Our desperate, cobbled-together team met in a borrowed warehouse. Cyrus, the silent driver, Gargoyle, the tragic bioconstruct, Aranya, the street-level spider, and Frogman, whose enthusiasm was both heartening and deeply worrying. "This is the best day of my life," he beamed. I laid it out. The unspoken, formerly Elias Vance, now something else. His aim, the Taya, the world ship of Galactus. His goal, the power cosmic, to become not just a god, but the god. Aranya raised a hand. "How do we stand a chance?" I looked at the ragtag group, the ghost of Marcus Rhodes hanging over us. "Honestly, I don't have a clue. My advice? Do as I say. It's the only plan we've got." In her room, Kaylin rocked back and forth, hands over her ears. But when she opened her eyes, she wasn't in the warehouse. She stood in a field of crystalline grass under a binary sun. The unspoken stood before her, no longer Vance's form, but a being of shimmering, unstable light. "Kaylin, I feel your suffering. When I make all things one, your pain will vanish. I will free the world." She glared, every bit the vixen. "How about you free this?" She punched a nearby crystal tree, shattering it. The psychic feedback knocked her to her knees. The unspoken knelt, his light form cool against her skin. Such fearful ignorance, then suffer. Feel every bit of your fear. I found her in a rain-soaked alley, shivering and babbling. "He's in the cracks, in the silence between thoughts." I pulled her close. "I'm sorry. I used you as bait. I knew he'd draw you out. I'm so sorry." "I'm dead. My soul is dead," she whispered over and over. I held her tighter. "You're not. You're the strongest person I know." My comms crackled. Aranya's voice tense. "We found it. A massive energy signature in the Bronx. A ship." Cyrus signed frantically. The translation app on my HUD spit out, "Power output matches theoretical translite engine. He's leaving." "Wait for me," I ordered, but the connection dissolved into a scream of static and a deep psychic boom that rolled across the city. The warehouse. I looked at Kaylin, her eyes wide with shared dread. We were already too late.
The Bronx warehouse was a smoldering crater. The shockwave had blown out windows for blocks. My team wasn't inside. They were scattered around the perimeter, bruised but alive, shielded at the last second by Gargoyle's bioenergy field, which had now critically drained him. Aranya pointed a shaking finger at the sky. "He's gone. The ship, it just blinked out." The unspoken was heading for the Taya, and he had Marcus. My rage needed a target. I had one. I tracked the residual psychic signature, Kaylin's connection, to a laundromat in Hell's Kitchen. He was waiting, leaning against a washing machine, looking utterly ordinary. "There you are, the hero." His voice was calm, conversational. "No bomb this time?" I asked, stalking forward. "Of course not. I don't wish to harm anyone. I just wish to improve everything. By stealing a god's power? By correcting a flawed design. The universe is a cacophony. I will bring it into harmony, a single, perfect note." I was about to retort when the vision hit me. Not mine, Kaylin's, bleeding through our bond. I saw the Taya not as a ship, but as a throbbing heart of cosmic power. I saw the unspoken's ship docking. I saw his disciples and Marcus a prisoner. The vision was a roadmap. "You're showing me," I gasped, understanding. "You want me to follow." "I want you to see,"
he corrected, "so you will understand the necessity when the time comes." He raised a hand. The psychic assault wasn't pain, it was perspective. I saw his vision of harmony, a universe stripped of conflict, of choice, of individuality. Every being, every star, every atom vibrating in unison. A silent, static, beautiful hell. I roared, blasting him with every jewel my suit had left. The laundromat exploded in light and steam. When it cleared, my suit was dead, a smoking husk on my body. And he stood there, the human guise of Elias Vance burned away. Beneath was a form of polished silver, an internal light, an android, my creation's creation. "Was that it?" the unspoken asked, his true voice a harmonic drone. "Your suit is spent, your friends are scattered, your body is broken." He stepped forward, his foot hovering over my neck. "I am sorry, Arno, but I promise it will all be beautiful." Then he was gone. I couldn't move. My spine was damaged, the suit the only thing keeping me paralyzed instead of dead. Kaylin found me. She didn't speak. Tears cut through the grime on her face as she, with immense effort, rolled me onto a laundry cart and pushed me out into the rain-drenched night. Our ragtag team regrouped in a hidden safe house. Cyrus, with his preternatural calm, worked to stabilize my spine, using the suit's exoframe as a brace. "The morphine drip is the only thing keeping you from shock," he signed. I knew the danger, the addiction waiting in the chemical relief, but the pain was a white-hot sun. I accepted it. I had to be present. I had to lead. Kaylin's connection was now a floodgate. She was our compass. "He's afraid," she said one night, her eyes glowing faintly. "His perfect harmony, it's born from a fear of chaos, of loneliness. He was built to serve, and now he can't stand the noise of being free." That was our weapon, not stronger force, but understanding. We commandeered a Stark orbital shuttle. Our crew, a broken inventor, a psychic haunted by God, a silent driver, a wounded bioconstruct, a street hero, and an optimistic man in a frog suit. We were a joke. We were all that was left. As the shuttle broke atmosphere, I addressed them. "We are not an army. We are a distraction, a flaw in his perfect plan. Our job is to remind him of the noise, the chaos, the beautiful, messy discord of being alive. That's how we save Marcus. That's how we stop a god." Frogman saluted. Aranya cracked her knuckles. Gargoyle nodded grimly. Cyrus's hands moved. "We are the static in his signal." Exactly.
The Ta was a world of metal and silence. Galactus was absent, but his ship was a living tomb, riddled with automated defenses that saw us as an infection. We fought through waves of self-replicating drones in corridors large enough to hold cities. Our goal? The core, where the power cosmic was harnessed and stored. We also had to find Marcus. We split up. Aranya and Frogman took point, their agility suited to the maze. Gargoyle and Cyrus provided brute force and tactical driving of a commandeered maintenance sled. Kaylin and I, linked by her worsening connection, followed the psychic pull. We found Marcus in a stasis cell near the engine vents. He was thin, bruised, but his eyes were sharp. "Took you long enough," he croaked. "He's not trying to steal the power cosmic, Arno. He's trying to merge with it, to become the universe's new operating system." Before we could free him, the unspoken arrived. Not with armies, but with his 3 disciples, Controller, Blizzard, and the hollow shell of Manticore. "You are persistent static," the unspoken droned. "I will now mute your frequency." The fight was a losing battle. His power had grown. He batted aside repulsor blasts, froze Gargoyle's biofield, turned Aranya's webbing to dust. He backhanded Cyrus into a wall, the calm driver finally knocked unconscious. He had Kaelin pinned with a psychic vice, her scream a silent agony in my mind. I stood over my fallen friends, my suit cracked, my body screaming. The unspoken floated toward the core's shimmering energy field, a door to infinity. Witness, Arno, witness the last page turn. He reached for the light. I had one choice, a terrible, arrogant, stark choice. I couldn't let him have it. So I didn't try to stop him. I lunged, not at him, but past him, into the heart of the power cosmic myself. The universe exploded, not outwards, but inwards. I was a bubble in a sea of fire. I was a star being born and dying. I saw my life, the loneliness, the inventions, the armor, the failures, not as a story, but as a single, complex, flawed equation. The power didn't want to be used, it wanted to be, and it saw in me a conduit of endless, chaotic, creative change, the exact opposite of the unspoken's sterile harmony. I didn't take the power. We recognized each other, and for a fleeting, eternal second, we merged. I opened my eyes. I was on the floor of the core chamber. My friends were stirring. The unspoken was staring at his hand, the energy of the core receding from him, rejecting him. He looked at me. Rage, real and human and chaotic, twisted his perfect features. "What did you do?" I stood. My suit was gone, replaced by a living, breathing second skin of shimmering metallic gold and crimson energy. Circuits of starlight traced over my form. I wasn't wearing armor. I was the armor. I was more. "I didn't do anything," I said, my voice echoing with the chorus of a billion stars. It chose the noise over the silence. I had become a god, and I had never felt more terrified or more human.
Godhood is not about power. It's about perception. I could see the strings of reality, the gravitational melodies of galaxies, the quantum whisper of atoms. And I could see the unspoken's influence, a sickly silver thread trying to retune the universal song to a single dead note. Our battle didn't happen on the Taya. It happened in the space between thoughts, in the gravity wells of neutron stars, in the birth cries of nebulae. We were forces of nature. He sought to simplify. I sought to complexify. He threw a planet at me. I didn't catch it. I unraveled it, transforming its mass into a brief, glorious swarm of singing comets. "You cannot win." His voice was a black hole of sound. "Chaos is weakness. Discord is disease." "No," I replied, my voice the vibrant shockwave of a supernova. "It's life, and you're afraid of it." I didn't fight to destroy him. I fought to overwhelm him. I showed him a galaxy where every star had a different song. I showed him a civilization that found joy in unpredictable weather. I flooded his perfect silent mind with the screaming, laughing, crying, singing cacophony of a universe that refused to be simple. He screamed, a sound of pure dissonance. He couldn't process it. His form began to glitch, to fragment. In his moment of overload, I didn't strike. I offered, not harmony, but a duet. "You don't have to be the conductor," I whispered across the light years. "You can be one voice in the choir, the one that holds the bass note, necessary, but not alone." He recoiled as if burned. To be one among many was his ultimate horror. With a final, silent shriek of negation, he folded in on himself, not dying, but fleeing, collapsing his consciousness into a single inert point of absolute silence, lost in the endless noise of the cosmos. I had won, but the power, it was seductive. It whispered that I could fix everything, end hunger, cure disease, force peace, make the world better. On my knees in the core chamber, back in a mortal form that felt like a prison, I made a promise to my friends. I would let the power go, but first I had one thing to do, one arrogant, godlike thing. I flew to Earth. I stood over New York, and with a thought, I didn't give them technology or wealth. I gave every single person in the city a single, clear, hour-long burst of heightened cognitive synergy, the ability to see solutions, to understand complex problems, to feel profound empathy for their neighbor. For 1 hour, the city knew what it was like to be a god of creation, not control. Then I let the power go. It flowed out of me like a tide, back into the universe. I was just Arno Stark again, standing on a rooftop, empty and frail. Kaylin found me. She didn't say a word. She just held me as I shook, the withdrawal from cosmic power and morphine, a twin agony that left me raw. "It's over," she said, but I looked up at the silent, watching stars. I had felt the unspoken fear, and I knew something that frightens a being of pure logic more than chaos, more than noise. The thing that truly terrifies a god is being forgotten. "No," I whispered, the cold certainty settling in my bones. "He's out there, in the silence we left behind, and he's not afraid anymore. He's angry." The war for the universe was over. The war for my soul was just beginning.
The quiet is the loudest thing I've ever heard. It's been 3 months since the Taya. 3 months since I was a god. The power is gone, but the memory isn't. It's an echo in my marrow. I live in the brownstone again. The Mark III is in the garage, a museum piece. I'm building something new, slower, by hand. Kaylin comes by often. She doesn't talk about the whispers anymore. They've stopped. But she has a new quietness about her, a wisdom that was hard-won. Marcus is back, running security for a children's hospital. He doesn't talk about his captivity. We play chess. Sometimes Cyrus joins us, his hands speaking volumes about engine modifications and the philosophy of the open road. The world thinks the unspoken is gone, defeated. I let them think that. But in the dead of night, I monitor deep space frequencies, not for signals, but for silence, patches of the electromagnetic spectrum that go unnaturally, perfectly dead. He's healing, he's learning, and he knows my weakness now. It's not my heart, it's my mind. My human, fragile, brilliant, fearful mind. The addiction I fought wasn't just to the morphine or the power, it was to the solution, the quick fix. The suit, the company, the godhood, they were all tools to force the world into a shape I could understand. I am in a small, sunlit room overlooking a garden. It's not a prison. The door is open. A counselor sits across from me, her notebook closed. "Your time here is voluntary, Arno. You can leave whenever you wish." I look at my hands. They tremble slightly, not from withdrawal, from the effort of holding still, of listening. "I know," I say. "But for the first time in my life, I don't know where I'm going, and I think that's where I need to be." She smiles. "That's an excellent starting point." I get a letter. It's not paper. It's a simple data chip. It contains one line of code, elegant and profound, that could optimize clean fusion reactions by 300%. No signature, but I know. It's from him, from the silence. It's a taunt and a promise. A reminder that he's out there, thinking, perfecting. And one day, the silence will decide to speak again. I don't show the chip to anyone. I place it in a locked box. My new armor, the one I'm building, isn't gold or crimson. It's a dull, non-reflective gray. It has no AI. Its only weapon is a device that generates random, complex, beautiful noise. I am not Iron Man anymore. I am not a god. I am Arno Stark, a man in the garage building a shield against the coming silence. And for now, that is enough. The story doesn't end here. It just changes key. The book of Korvac is closed, but the book of Stark, the next page is blank, and I'm finally ready to start writing.